like to call this meeting to order for the Geneva Historic Preservation Commission for Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. Can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Hartman,
Here.
McManus,
Here.
Solomon,
Yo.
Stays, and Warner,
Here.
Zinke,
Here.
Chairman Zelmer.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, first on our agenda is, I'm going to make a few comments. Jim Hamilton, who stepped down from the Geneva Historic Preservation Commission in September, submitted the following comments. Jim had intended to share these comments personally, however, the September HPC meeting was canceled. So Jim says, Commissioners and Geneva residents, it is hard to believe it has almost been 4 years since I joined the Historic Preservation Commission. It has gone by so fast. I am also so grateful to have the opportunity to be part of the commission and serve this wonderful city in this way. I want to thank each of the commissioners, past and present, for their perspective. I have learned so much from each of you and am grateful for this experience. I grew to truly value the different points of view and expertise that each of you has, in addition to your passion for the city. Thank you. I also want to thank Michael Lambert for the work he does on our behalf. The extensive detail he puts into each request that comes before us provides us a great foundation for our decisions. His attention to detail and objectivity gave me the facts I needed to consider alternatives, participate in the discussion, and provide my recommendation. Michael is such an asset to Geneva. Thank you, Michael, for helping me be a better commissioner. My wife and I never planned to leave Geneva. We love this town. Our decision to relocate was a difficult one, but we agreed to it with the goal in mind that we would move back to Geneva when our work life is over. This is where we want to be. That said, I wish the best for each of you. Stay healthy, don't ever lose your passion for this city, and keep doing the great work of this commission. Thank you, Jim Hamilton. Here. Does any commissioner, should we say something into the record, or does anyone, commissioner?
If they would like to.
Okay. Well, with that, we have two commissioners we would like to welcome, Lisa McManus and Don Hartman. Lisa, would you like to say anything about how you came to the commission and?
Sure. Is this a good enough distance? Yeah.
I believe so.
Well, I've lived in Geneva now since 2006, but raising small kids and just didn't have the opportunity to become involved with within the community. So this gives me that that option, but also in an avenue that I'm familiar with. So I am an interior designer by profession. I've done a lot of remodeling in and not necessarily in Geneva, but in the Chicagoland area, and I just have a lot of background and a lot of love for things that are historic, and just happy to be here.
Great, thank you. Don, would you like
Yes.
to?
We moved. My wife and I moved to Geneva in about 7 years ago, and 3 years ago I was in front of the board for some work being done on my home on 4th Street. And as I had said earlier, one of the reasons I showed interest in being on the board was the misperception of what I had heard in the neighborhood from what I actually went through. It was a good experience for me to deal with Mike and the commission, and so that's how that first came about. My background is I'm a carpenter and contractor, and I have been for my whole career. And have worked on some historic renovations in different counties, and so I'm glad to be aboard.
Great, thank you. Welcome to both of you. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from August 18th, 2020. Do we have any corrections? Oh. Okay. With that, can I get a motion from the and a second from the two people that are here, were here.
Motion to approve minutes from August 18, 2020.
You weren't there?
I abstain.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll second it, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I think the rest of the people have to abstain. Okay. With that, I think the next thing on our agenda is the 5-minute field guide. Michael?
Thank you, Chairman Zelmer. Oops. One of the common tenets of historic preservation is that cleaning of historic buildings should be undertaken with the gentlest means possible. Here at Geneva, our Commission and City Council have adopted that principle in our municipal code and preservation design guidelines. But we use that phrase a lot, but I don't know if everybody really knows what that phrase means in actual practice. Why is it important to determine the gentlest means possible for each project? A well-planned cleaning project is an essential step in preserving, rehabilitating, or restoring a historic building. Proper cleaning methods and coating treatments can enhance the aesthetic as well as the structural stability of a historic building. Appropriately removing years of accumulated dirt, pollutants, graffiti, or paint can extend the life and longevity of a historic property. Cleaning methods that are completed with carelessness or insensitivity by workers with little understanding of historic materials can have the opposite and often unintended effect. Non-abrasive cleaning is considered appropriate for historic buildings. Gentlest means possible includes low-pressure water wash with natural bristle brushes. Steam cleaning is another effective method, and also commercially available cleaners and stripping agents are appropriate in many cases. However, it's recommended that a test patch is always used first to discover the most effective and least harmful product for each particular condition, as they vary in materials and substrates. Chemical cleaners come in acidic and alkaline forms for different conditions and materials. Therefore, it's important to understand the material to be removed and the substrate that's to be preserved, because one size of cleaner does not fit all situations. Stone exposed to weathering and other environmental conditions may become friable, or alternatively, it may develop a protective skin or patina, and it's important to understand what the condition of the stone is before it's cleaned. These outer surfaces are very susceptible to damage by abrasive or improper chemical cleaning. In fact, polished or honed stones, such as marble or granite, can become permanently etched from abrasive cleaning. It's important also to identify prior architectural treatments. For instance, some softer brick or minimally fired brick may have been coated historically with paint or stucco to help preserve the material, either at the onset of construction or at some later date in the building's life. Soft and fragile materials such as plaster and stucco typically disintegrate under aggressive or abrasive cleaning methods. Removing such treatments may be detrimental to the preservation of the structure, may actually hasten future deterioration, and may not be appropriate for the historic appearance of a property. Low-pressure water cleaning of historic buildings requires further explanation. In cleaning specifications, pressure is generally abbreviated as PSI, or pounds per square inch, in reference to the tip pressure, in other words, the amount of water pressure released from the nozzle of the hose. An industrial cleaning contractor might consider high pressure to be anything but over 5,000 PSI, although most industrial cleaning is completed at pressures between 1,000 and 2,500 PSI. Still, those pressures are far in excess of recommended pressures for historic buildings, which range between 20 and 100 PSI at a distance of 3 to 12 inches from the substrate to be cleaned. So you can understand that if a contractor is not familiar with historic materials, they can do a great deal of damage by addressing a historic building with standard industrial cleaning methods. Unfortunately, many professional building cleaning contractors do not fully understand the extreme delicacy of many centuries-old materials that may differ significantly from similar modern materials. Consequently, those contractors may accept cleaning projects for which they have no experience. Abrasive cleaning methods include all techniques that physically abrade, meaning roughen, grind, scrape, or scruff the building surface in an effort to remove soils, discolorations, or coatings. Such techniques involve the use of certain materials which impact or abrade the surface under pressure, or through the use of power tools and power equipment. Sand is the most commonly known grit agent. However, other materials have been used as well. Ground slag or volcanic ash, pulverized walnut or almond shells, rice husks, ground corn cobs, pulverized coconut shells, crushed egg shells, silica flour, and even small microscopic glass beads. Under moderate to high pressure, water can also become an abrasive substance. Stone exposed to weather and other environmental conditions may become friable, or alternatively, as I said, may develop a protective skin or patina. High pressure washing can also damage stone, which is considered a very hard material. This example shows the left side that's been pressure washed, and the result of the pressure washing is the removal of all the original striations that were part of the character that is shown on the right side of this particular piece of stone. Mechanical cleaning involves the use of power tools and equipment. Abrasive tools can include wire brushes, rotary wheels, power sanding discs, and belt sanders. Usually, an abrasive cleaning method, particularly mechanical removal, is selected as an expeditious means of quickly removing decades of dirt accumulation, unsightly stains, or deteriorating building fabric or finishes such as stucco or paint. But speed is not always preservation's friend. Although local ordinances and guidelines identify the gentlest means possible should be used for masonry cleaning, a permit is not required for routine maintenance in Geneva and therefore is not reviewed by the Historic Preservation Commission. Consequently, local buildings are subject to abrasive mechanical cleaning, as pictured in this recent example of a few weeks ago when a power grinder was used to clean limestone detailing from a significant building in our historic district. Many architectural metals are thin or soft, and many are finished with a protective coating such as galvanizing. Abrasive cleaning can pierce, dent, or remove protective coatings that will lead to more rapid deterioration of the historic material. Wood is soft and fibrous and is particularly susceptible to abrasive cleaning. Abrasive cleaning of wood elements exposes more surface area that requires greater amounts of paint and produces more surface area which is susceptible to future failure. High heat or open flame removal methods are not a good choice because they can burn wood and other materials. In extreme cases, open flame or high heat devices used in restoration work, whether for aggressive cleaning or things such as roof repairs, are a major cause of accidental fires during rehabilitation, often resulting in the total loss of historic structures. In the final analysis, it is always better to underclean historic materials rather than risk the damage by aggressive cleaning or removal. That ends tonight's 5-minute field guide. Are there any questions or comments?
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Okay, the first, or the next item on the agenda is the review of building permit applications and 615 James Street.
Thank you, Chairman Zelmer. The property at 615 James Street is listed as a contributing property within the Geneva Historic District and is classified also as a contributing property in the Central Geneva Historic District, which is listed in the National Register of Historic Places. The 615 James Street property contributes to the general character of the neighborhood and streetscape, particularly in an area of the overlapping historic districts where a number of post-World War II residences were constructed between 1946 and 1960. This modern-era house is identified as a minimal traditional design, a domestic architectural style that was popularized between circa 1935 and circa 1950, according to a field guide to American houses. The incorporation of an attached one-car garage was an innovation found primarily on working-class housing built in the years immediately after World War II. The James Street house is a late example of the minimal traditional style. The James Street property was acquired in June of 1950 by Leroy McIntosh. A mortgage was filed and recorded in September of 1951, and city council records published for September of 1951 in the Geneva Republican shows that a building permit was issued for the construction of a $10,300 house by Leroy McIntosh. The James Street house was built by Community Builders Incorporated, which was a Skokie-based home construction company established in 1926. By 1950, Community Builders was constructing modest new homes in the western suburbs of Wheaton, Elgin, Aurora, and West Chicago. And one of their unique marketing features was to run regular ads offering to finance the complete building of a home if you could afford to buy a lot and have it paid for before construction started. So the house at 615 James Street has remained in the McIntosh family since its construction 69 years ago. Tonight, the applicant is seeking to replace windows throughout the home. On the front facade or the street facade, there are two windows on the front, a fixed multi-light window on the left and a double hung window on the right. The proposal is to replace the windows with similar windows, so the double hung window on the right would be replaced with a wood unit manufactured by Marvin of similar scale and proportion on the sash and the window itself as the existing window. And the multi-light window is being proposed to be replaced with a fixed picture window and a casement window flanking either side. As I mentioned in the staff report, this is not an uncommon window type for this type of minimal traditional house. However, in the early 1950s, a flanking windows typically would have been double hung, but they're not requesting that, they're requesting a casement window. Also, because this application came in just after the last deadline for the September meeting, and the September meeting was canceled, I am providing an alternative if you believe that the multi-light window is a character-defining feature, an alternative for your discussion and consideration so that hopefully you can proceed with the discussion completely this evening and not delay anything. So it's only offered there as an option for your discussion based on what your concerns are. The other windows that are being considered for replacement are on the east side of the home. Again, the double hung window at the far rear, which is fairly obscured from the street, is being replaced with a light double hung wood window. And the two octagonal windows on the east side are being proposed to be replaced with square windows. What I found curious, and I'm confident the applicants will address this, when I went out to the site and looked at it, it appears that the octagonal window is at the exterior and potentially a square window is at the interior when you look at the details of how that window is. So we'll hopefully get that cleared up this evening. I have provided for each of you a historic significance summary, and I've left a copy at the lectern as well for this property. I apologize for not getting to the report and the agenda packet, but this is a form that I've typically used for all of you so that you're all looking at the same significance factors. Again, it's all the information that's been provided in the staff report just summarized. And then there is a findings of fact of how this project request corresponds with the Secretary of Interior standards. For those who have not been here before, there is the enlarged poster on the side there that lists the 10 Secretary of Interior standards that the Commission follows in reviewing projects. We also have a copy here for the Commission to reference as well. So with that, I would be happy to turn the podium over to the applicants to show them how to work their way through the images. This will take you back to any image, and this will take you forward. So I don't know if you want to get to the... Good.
Thank you for your time.
Welcome. Can you state your name
Mike Schmidt,
and your address?
1737 East Wilson Street, Batavia. I own Schmidt Exteriors. We're Marvin Pella, replacement specialists.
Thank you. Do you
What should I say?
Do you, I guess the question is do you have anything to add from what Michael has stated?
Not really. To clarify, the octagon windows on the inside, they are rectangles.
They are, okay.
They are. So that was just simply a trim detail that could have been added while they did the aluminum siding on this at some time in history.
Okay.
But historically, they should be rectangles.
Okay. And do you have an opinion about the two proposed the concepts that Michael has presented, the two alternate concepts?
The only, I just thought that the garage has no grills, the double hung has no grills, there are no grills on other windows in the house. And that the casement, picture window casement in the dining area, just simply augmented, allowed airflow through the structure, because there are no windows actually operating windows on that side all the way through to the kitchen. So we wanted to introduce some airflow and be more functional.
Okay, that sounds good. Do I have any, Caroline, do you have any comments about what has been presented?
Well, I think the west, looking at the facade, I'm thinking of the window on the left side as being the west window, and the window on the right side being the east window. So focusing for me on the west window, I do really think that is a character-defining feature. I understand your point that there are no, Michael, what are those called?
Mullions?
There's no mullions on any other window in the house, but I think the mullions on that west window just add a character to the front facade that would be lost if the mullions were not replicated in the new windows that you're planning on putting in.
Do you have an issue with the two casements flanked by a picture window, or is it?
Well, to me, that characteristic defining feature just disappears if there are no mullions on that window at all. And I understand that you would like to have the windows to open to get some ventilation through there. And Michael, on your suggestion, could you go to the slide that has your suggestion, number 2? Did you have an idea as to what kind of windows that would be with the mullions?
Well, there's several options if the muttons are significant to you. This one on the number 2.
Yeah.
Just look at the information that's provided. There are 2 standard Marvin windows that would fill that same opening. That would be casements. You also have the option if the desire is to keep the picture window and the flanking casement. Those could also have a mutton pattern put in them, just like there. So the side flanking casements would just be divided into four panes essentially, and the picture window would be divided into 8.
I see.
So I mean, it doesn't. There are options for getting that look if that's a consideration.
Well, for me it would be, but I don't know what my fellow members feel about it.
I can't answer that directly, but I think I have a point of order perhaps that this is indeed a contributing residence.
Correct.
And so the Geneva window policy would be in effect. So then I'm reading the first sentence that says, thoroughly assess the condition of the window sash and frame. And I don't have a report that tells me what the condition of the session frame is.
Sure. I didn't push for a request on that because, again, as I mentioned in the report, these were builder grade windows. And again, in this period, typically those builder grade windows aren't very good. They are single pane windows right now, and that's part of the reason for the replacement is to keep the aesthetics as close as possible to get some better energy efficiency on the windows. So I did not, that would be my error, I guess, that I did not specifically call for them to do a complete window survey. I had been in the house previously, before, and knew that David McIntosh, who had lived here, had pointed out several of the window issues, so that's probably my error for not pushing for a whole window survey, but they are I will say from having been in the house, they are a lower end builder grade window in that house. So one of the things we do consider with the windows is do we have extraordinary, unusual windows. We've had some from this era that have an unusual operating system, the tape springs. But again, from having been in this house when Mr. McIntosh was alive, there was nothing that he pointed out in any of these windows that seemed that these were any kind of extraordinary craftsmanship. So I apologize for not providing more information to the commission on that.
That's
front.
fine.
Well, I think
Ju-
our concern is only with the two windows on the front and the two octagon, which are really square windows on the east side. And that, if I'm correct on that, that means that the homeowner can do what she wants with the other windows.
Sure.
That is correct.
Is that, yes.
That's correct.
There's 5 windows that you're considering, so the 2 on the front and the 3 on the side, so that you can see the rear double hung window on the far rear side when you're standing at the sidewalk.
Oh, so you are including that one?
Yes, there are 5.
I see.
But
Okay.
again, the double hung windows at that location and on the front of the house are the same window unit. And if you, and again, I apologize, I did not require them to provide actual measurements of the existing, but the information they submitted is very close to what was there, so I didn't ask them to verify all those dimensions.
Okay.
Are these windows original?
My understanding from Mr. McIntosh was that they were the original windows.
Yeah, I can't get past that. I guess, just to finish the thought.
Yeah, I
Just to
understand it,
I'm very sympathetic with the request. I'd like to do everything I can to assist. But in deference to the other people who have come and stood where you have, they've had to do a thorough assessment and provide that sort of information to the commission. And barring that, I'm not questioning anything that you've said or submitted. It's simply that I don't have sufficient information to go contrary to the window policy. That the second sentence begins with repair first, assuming they're historic or original, which all of the above is true.
Well, they can be original and not historic, correct?
That is true. We have had that discussion, the difference between original and historic. Again, historic means they've gained significance, or they provide some kind of insight into particular craftsmanship, or they're a unique type of window. That's kind of the defined line between original versus original and historic.
But, so assuming they aren't reparable, I would concur with Carolyn that if that window is original, then that's the way it appears and has appeared for 59, 69 years. I would be inclined to retain that in some fashion. Barring that, and then I'll just conclude, I believe homes from that era tended to have fixed centers and operable single panes, sashes on flanking,
Yes. I grew up in a house like that.
rather than the casement. But that would just simply be a preference. I don't think I have any standing to insist, but just to make a comment.
Well, I do see your point about getting a survey done of the existing windows. I mean, I think that to be fair to the other applicants of different houses, we should at least be consistent in what we asked for.
Paul, do you mean every window in the house or these 5?
I would say only the ones that are, we have a
Purview for?
purview for. I mean, I think, and that's typical of what we would say too.
Right.
But I see the point of, you know, that I'm trying to think of a way that we can
Well,
get
just so you know
through
where,
this without
Delaying.
delay.
so you know where staff was coming from on that. I go back further into the window policy and where it identifies what window significance is identified as. If you have that policy, it says, not all windows are equally significant. Factors determining significance include age of window, design of window, physical integrity, street-facing facade, architectural and historical significance. Windows should be considered significant if they are original or historic, reflect the original design intent for the building, reflect period or regional styles or building practices, reflect changes to the building resulting from major periods or events, or are examples of exceptional craftsmanship or design. And I probably should have included this in my staff report with the questions you're asking, but when I looked at that part that was defining significance, like I said, these are builder grade windows from 1950. I didn't see them as exceptional craftsmanship or design, and that's where we've usually landed back when we've started asking about windows being preserved. Are they really a true reflection of a particular style or what have you? One of the problems we get into when we get into modern era buildings, and we've had this discussion one other time, is that after World War II, we have a lot of stock building parts that weren't included in earlier housing stock. And so the determination as to whether there's historic significance is really a question that the commission has to grapple with. Because again, stock elements as you get closer to the 50s, 60s, and 1970s, gets harder and harder to identify those as outstanding examples of craftsmanship. So that's where I came down with my reasoning not to request a total window survey, because if this had been a custom-built house from the 1950s or an architect-designed house from the 1950s, I probably would have requested an entire window survey. But when I found out this was built by community builders and did a little research into community builders and realized they were a production type of housing company, they were buying off-the-shelf items. To my fault or to my credit, whichever you want to look at it, I looked at the overall character of a minimal traditional house was a little more significant in my review of this than just having stock building parts. I may be wrong, and you've never been shy in letting me know when I've made a wrong assumption. So, but that was what my thinking was as staff on this particular project.
I guess we could, you are the homeowner, right? Correct. Could you step up to the mic, please, just because I think we,
Name and address.
can you give your name and address?
Yeah, Nancy Lorenz. Well, my current address is 16 Cyril Drive, but I'll be shortly moving into 615 James Street. It's my family home, and we've kept the home. Try to keep the home in the family, and those windows are 70 years old, and they're not functioning. Like you say, they're builder grade windows. I think that we have a huge ventilation problem in the house. There's no cross ventilation at all. So that's why I was adamant about getting some kind of ventilation in those front windows. Some of the windows, though, have been replaced with vinyl windows, but even those are not functioning.
None of the ones that we're talking about, the 5 that we're talking about?
The one on the right side, that's a vinyl window, or vinyl or aluminum, actually. And then there's another one, the bedroom window on the right side, but not the octagon or
Or the picture window?
or the picture window. Which, like I say, the octagon is octagon on the outside, square on the inside, which makes no sense at all. And they're not functioning windows either, which I'm asking for some ventilation in the house, in the home.
Are those going to be functional window, or will they be operable windows when you, when the
That's
new-
that's what I'm proposing, yeah, to have like an easement type window to let some air in.
Will you have to take the aluminum off then?
No. Well, you will partially,
Around those windows.
well, around the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have to reframe around the, you'll have to retrim around the window, right?
Yes, if I may, these are Marvin, all wood windows, they're historically accepted in Old Park with forest.
If you could move towards the,
This window is accepted in those historic districts. And it's all wood, inside, outside, there's no aluminum frame. All the trim will be replaced with 5/4 clear pine, primed and painted, instead of the aluminum capping that you see. So we're restoring it to historical standards versus aluminum and vinyl replacements that have been done over the decades.
I'd like to just pose a question to the commission about whether they feel that getting, testimony or getting the word of the homeowner would be enough for this, in this situation, with the history of the house. We know the history of the house. Does anyone have any other comments about that?
Well, in general, I understand where David's coming from about keeping things consistent and how we have requested things of window surveys and such in the past. However, that usually comes under the auspices of, much older turn of the century applications and custom type applications where we've had windows like what was at the church house over there that were significant in their design and their style. Whereas, this is, more of a mass-produced house, kind of like the old Levittown back on Long Island where they just built thousands of them and, hit, plug and play your windows and such. And, especially being of a low-end builder grade window, we're not exactly talking a lot of fine craftsmanship and, obviously in today's day and age with, insulation and thermal and things of that nature, I get it. As far as the significance of the window that was originally there, to be perfectly frank, the proposal, working on the same minimalist style is perfectly fine with me as far as my concerns are. I don't see the grid pattern as being that ultra significant because once again, in a mass-produced type of a thing, you could have had a similar with a double hung on the other side on another house by the same manufacturer. So like I said, it wasn't like this was a custom design house. It's no different than if you want your car with white walls or black walls, it's basically the same house. As far as the windows on the side are concerned, it's a little weird that you have square windows on the inside and octagon on the outside, so that's kind of a no-brainer there. And replacing a double hung with a double hung is there. I mean, I understand airflow, and I'm a big fan of it, especially with the current situation right now, is very prevalent. So, it's, from how everything was described by the homeowner, I'm fine with her explanation. And the reality that this house has been kept in the family since the beginning, I have no issues with their proposal. But I understand where David's coming from, but I think in this particular case, even though they are significant in age, they're really not significant in design, craftsmanship, and such. So they're old, but that doesn't mean it's special.
I have one question. Michael, is that right window, the one on the east side, is that an original window that's existing?
This one?
Oh, well, down the existing
Or
side,
this
yeah.
one?
Uh-huh.
No, that is a vinyl window.
So that's been replaced.
It's been replaced.
I feel like, I don't know, I don't feel like we should, from a historic perspective, you know, you look at the promotional flyer for that, and clearly there were those mullions between the glass and that kind of visual feel was part of this original. I mean, that's part of the home. At some point, you know, right now, it's a little like visually lopsided, so it's like part of it looks like the original, and then the other part looks like it's just been replaced. But I think that with something that isn't, like you said, something that's historic, that isn't something that was custom built, that this is a home that's been, you know, mass produced, I think that, I think it still maintains its historic integrity even without having those divisions between the lights and having that kind of a feature. So I personally am okay with the proposed plan.
The casements on each side of the picture window.
Yeah, yeah.
Mike, I have a question concerning are the muttons, is it all fixed panel, or is it applied mutton on the interior of that window?
Right now, they're true divided lights in the
They are
picture
true.
window.
The new window would be true divided?
There are no grills in the new window.
Oh, I'm sorry, correct. So they're all true individual, okay. I was
Yeah,
just-
that's, in the 50s, they didn't have insulated glass. So,
Okay.
Carolyn, do you have an opinion about not having a survey done?
Well, I'm sitting on the fence with that. I understand that we have had several situations, several cases that have come to us in the past 2 years where we had to have a survey, and we talked about this survey 3, 4, 5 times before we finally got one. And in this case, we don't have a survey. I don't know, I'm on the fence on that one. I can see why a survey isn't needed, so to speak, if we're talking about 5 windows, but then again, the back of the house maybe has 2 more windows, and there's I don't know. How many windows total are being replaced in the house? These 5 plus,
yeah, hang on just a minute, please. I need my glasses.
oh, they're on your head.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's, the submittal says 9 windows are total, what's being replaced total.
9, okay, 9 windows.
Thank
So
you.
actually, this 5 is more than.
Yeah, most of them are vinyl, old vinyl,
Right, right.
you know, outdated, non-functioning vinyl
Right.
windows. There is no historic preservation. There
Right.
is no historic rebuild.
Right, right, right.
Is the window, I guess I'm confused, that is the window to the right of the door as we look at, that is vinyl currently?
Yes.
Oh, well, so the survey that I would ask for, or I guess expect, is simply for one window, right?
And I
so
apologize, I was under the impression that was still a wood window at the front, and when I
Okay.
walked by, it still looks like a
So,
wood window, so it's
yeah.
a pretty,
The octagonal window, I mean, you're doing the house, I believe, and the community a favor by replacing the octagonal,
Yeah,
covering, you know, square with square. I don't have any jurisdiction to suggest, but why are you choosing casement instead of double hung? Again, I could ask staff, what is more period appropriate to a 50s home, or one that the community builders, would they be double hung or casement?
you've asked several questions there. So, again, the flanking casement window is typically more associated with the ranch-style home of the mid-50s to later 50s. but it's still a 1950s era window that was introduced. More typically, casement windows came into greater use in the 60s and 70s
Yeah.
than in the 50s.
Yeah.
And if you look at a lot of these minimal traditional houses, I kind of paged through what is in the Field Guide to American Architecture. A lot of them had kind of a signature window or a couple of signature windows on the front. And as Commissioner Salem pointed out, when you look at places like Levittown, New Jersey, and other places where they were building these massive production houses or subdivisions, it was often that character-defining window or that one window that made it different from the rest of the house. It was either the front door, the garage door, or a significant window was made. While I've been listening to discussion, I mean, one other potential option is if the idea is that the casement window is really preferred because it gives the most ventilation in the home or what have you, you could, as I said earlier, you could divide it with divide what they're proposing with it and just require muttons to be applied to it and get basically that same look as what is in that fixed window now, but give them the ventilation. And that, again, that's your option. But like I said, if you look at this minimal traditional style, again, from the 1930s to 1950s, it was typically one or two windows that gave the character and the front door. Garage doors, as we've looked at some historic garage doors from this period, there weren't a whole lot of options to them, so they were kind of what they were. But what set these off in multiple housing developments was typically a front window and a front door. And that was the difference. Sometimes the porches would be differentiated with a hipped roof or a gable roof, what have you. So this whole idea of this minimal traditional design that's been identified as a trend across the country is that, again, they were production built, they had simple massing, they were affordable to be built, worker class housing, it was the first style with really attached garages for working class people. And the house fits all of that. From the history we know of the house, from the history of the community builders, those elements are being maintained. And so it's a question of whether the window details need to be refined, or if because the window openings are staying basically in their same configuration, that it's retaining enough of the historic style. One of the problems with minimal traditional, as opposed to some of the other styles we look at, there's not a lot of character defining elements. So that might also be a consideration.
Ergo minimal.
Yeah.
That's why it's called minimal traditional. They've stripped it down to the basics.
I've just got one more comment, I guess. So if we believe that one window to the right of the door is in fact vinyl, then it's conceivable, if not probable, that it was also a divided light window, providing a sort of consistent approach. I just think it would be strange for a contractor to put in a multitude of differing windows. That's my opinion. To that end, again, what you're proposing is a mix of windows. It looks better consistently to me, rather than have one divided light and one double hung. So I guess if we're going down this path, would prefer them to all be similar, and I would favor them all being double hung as opposed to the casement. But that is what probably a builder would have done in the 50s. We don't want to create any false historicity, of course, but I guess that would be more consistent in my opinion.
Just to build on what you said, Commissioner Warner, again, looking at the field guide to American houses and looking at this type, the windows didn't always match. They weren't always matchy-matchy. Sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't. I did try to find several more ads from community builders in a very quick search to see if I could find this house, since they had a sales office in Wheaton, and I'm thinking in my mind that the McIntosh family probably drove over to Wheaton to see their model, and they had you had 5 choices to pick out, but I could not find this house in any of the community builder ads, because that was one of the questions I had. But again, looking at other minimal traditional houses, the windows didn't always match from one side to the other. Sometimes there was a focus window on a facade.
May I ask, Miss Lorenz, did you grow up in this house? Okay, then you could be our expert. That window, the east window that is now vinyl, when that was the original window, what style was it? Do you recall?
was all the same style.
It was a double hung,
Yeah, yeah,
which is what's there now.
yeah.
I see, okay, all right.
But the point that Commissioner Warner's asking is, was it a double hung with
Divided
muntins,
lights or-
divided lights?
Yes.
Or was it always just a single light
Oh,
over a
no,
single
it's
light?
single light.
A single pane.
The only ones was the picture one.
I see, okay. So then that goes along what you were saying, Michael, that in this style of house, many of them had a featured window.
Right.
Okay, all right.
One of the things to remember is these were designed to be very, very affordable
Right,
houses.
of course,
So,
of course, okay. Michael, could you go back to the slide or the picture of your two suggestions? Ms. Lorenz, are you agreeable to alternate number 1 or alternate number 2?
Preferably, I don't like number 2. I think it looks off balance.
Okay,
I
so,
don't think it's pleasing to the eye. So, one is a nice option,
1 is a nice option.
but I don't know, 2 just does not,
I see,
I feel like it just doesn't.
I see, okay, okay. Now, 1, in my experience, looks a great deal like the 50s and early 60s houses that I saw being built around me when I was growing up. And in fact, I lived in a house that had windows exactly like that in the front. Okay. What do we commissioners think?
I'm fine with number 1.
I favor 1 if
If everyone?
we don't require a survey of
Are we,
the window.
well, we're down to one window for a
Right.
survey.
I-
and
I
So
have a-
I think it's kind of a bit of a moot point on the survey, in my
Correct.
opinion. But I think that, I don't see a lot of difference between option 1 and the proposed option personally. I think they're both somewhat common to the time. So,
I'm a coin toss on 1 end, the proposed, it's,
yeah,
you know,
I
I
mean, is
know
it,
time is here, we want to get this window handled too, and yet still it keeps up with the traditions of the minimalist
yeah,
design.
do we, have we, so what I'm hearing is a couple people think option 1 versus the original concept.
I'll float either way.
Okay.
So is option 1 a double hung flankers on the picture window?
correct.
Yeah,
Is that
Does
for us?
Marvin make a casement window that has simulated mullion in the middle to simulate a double hung window, I believe?
They do.
They do, right?
You can put a 2-inch bar.
So it would be an operational casement, but it would have the look of a double hung, correct?
Yeah, it's a 2-inch SDL grill.
yeah, if I were to go that way, I think I'd just go with the casement at that point.
And just as a informational for you, Don, since this is your first meeting, Commissioner Hartman, the commission in general has rejected that on a major facade because they don't have a shadow line of a traditional double hung.
Okay,
And so they've, in the majority of the cases where those have been proposed, they've been on a minor elevation rather than on a primary facade.
because it has an applied look versus a
Yeah,
okay.
you don't get that hard shadow line that you
Sure.
get through a double hung window.
Okay, understandable.
Okay, and I guess I have to say that I do think the window on the left is the most significant part of the entire house, the design.
I agree.
So I would vote yes for number 2 because I can understand why you want to replace it. But I guess I would have to vote no unless that window was replaced with option 2. And I realize it's your house, and, and you need to do things your way, but unfortunately, I'm sitting on the Historic Preservation Commission, and I do believe that that west window is a significant design feature of your house, and that I think the house will lose something if that window style is not there on your house.
Commissioner Zinke, just to clarify, if you're leaning towards 2, I'm assuming you would also be acceptable if muttons were added to that in the same pattern as the original window?
On the proposal?
On the proposed window of their double, or their casement windows with a fixed unit in the middle, they could again divide that with muttons to look like the existing window. So the casements would have 4 divisions and the picture unit would have 8 divisions.
Oh, I didn't realize that we were actually suggesting that.
Well, I'm just saying, that's another, I mean, I knew the window would probably be a discussion, so that's why I offered this, but as I'm listening to your conversation, you get this same basic look of number 2 by dividing their proposal up with muttons and, dividing that up and divide it with muttons, so.
With the casement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I'm just trying to listen to what everybody's saying and what the
Yes.
critical things are and trying to offer you
Yes.
alternatives to consider whatever motion you make, and again, if that would be acceptable to the owner and the builder.
Would you be acceptable to that? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Would it be acceptable to make the existing vinyl window match it in its divided light as well, so the front would be more consistent with perhaps what I would view as being historical and what a builder would do?
No, because I can understand you wanting to improvise, on the picture window.
Can you go to the microphone so we can pick your voice up?
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, I understand, how you want to replicate the picture window, but as far as the window on the right, I would just keep that original and have all the windows uniform. I'd prefer that, thank you.
Well, we have no evidence that it ever had divided lights
Right.
anyway,
Right.
so,
And I don't think it's of our responsibility to redesign a house.
no.
Right.
This is the way it's proposed. The owner said that the double hung is the way it was when she grew up in the house, and so for us to request them to redesign it in a way that we don't have any kind of factual proof that that was the original design, I don't think is our jurisdiction.
Okay. Okay, it seems like we're kind of honing in on the proposed with divided lights. If people can, that's something that the homeowner can live with, and that's something that the historic district or the commission can live with. If I can can you propose,
I would agree with that, yes.
can you propose a motion, Carolyn?
Oh, no. Okay. Michael, I'm going to need the words for this. I propose that the commission approves the proposal for 615 James Street as presented with this change, that the window on the, Michael, is it okay to say the window on the west?
On the front facade.
The window on the west facade,
Front facade, though.
the west front facade, be replaced with the proposed window with the addition of attached mullions,
Simulated divided lights.
or simulated divided lights.
Technically, the word is muntin.
Muntin? Okay.
Everyone finds it too hard to say, so they call them grills.
Okay, muntin, with simulated divided
Muntin.
muntins.
I would just say you want to clarify, that would be a 16 light unit, all said and
So the, is it 16 lights?
done. That's what's on the present window. Yes. Well, here, Mike, why don't you show that too? Pass that around for the commissioners to understand it then. He's already drawn it in.
Okay.
Do you want to read that back
Yeah,
real
yeah,
quick?
okay. We need a second. Do we have a second?
Sure, we got a second.
Who was the second?
Oh, who's the second?
I'll second.
George.
Solomon. Okay. This is what I have.
Rejecting the window with no grills, is that correct?
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Is the board rejecting the window with no grills?
Correct.
Do we need to,
Well, we're approving your proposal with the addition of grills.
On the one window only.
Okay, so
But I thought, is there any vote at all?
Yeah, we're-
We're
Yeah.
getting to it.
They're getting- they're getting
We're
to a
getting
vote.
to it.
yeah,
We're
Paul,
getting to it.
That's what
I just want to clarify the motion. Okay,
the owner is preferring no grills.
Right.
no, that's, I think we should vote on that. Vote on what the owner has proposed, and then offer an alternate. Is that what the owner is asking?
Yes, I'm asking, yeah, if I have a vote for no grills, I'm gonna- which I prefer,
Actually, you have to, would you step up to the,
That's-
you know, my preference is not to have the grills. I feel the grills set it off balance. So I would prefer you vote to see if you would pass it without the grills before I go ahead and say, yeah, I'd like to add them all.
You'd have to withdraw the motion.
okay.
So
Caroline
I'll-
has to withdraw the
I
motion.
will withdraw my motion.
Sorry,
Okay.
David.
We'll have to get someone else to have, or, David, can you put the motion together?
I'm not in favor of the motion.
Okay. George, I
Okay.
knew it was going to be.
Default. The proposal for 1615 James Street,
No, 6:15.
615 James Street, with the replacement of the windows as shown is approved, however,
Well, no, we
What-
want to just,
what- okay,
we have to have a plain one without any approval.
well, I'm talking about, how about the other four windows?
You can just say you're making a motion to approve what's been submitted, that's the request.
That's what they're asking for, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 5-window proposal for 615 James Street. So the gridded window, is that the east or west? West.
That's the west.
Yeah, west window.
Okay, the west window. So the 3 windows on the side of the house and the east window on the front of the house, can I say, are approved as presented. The window on the front west, on the west side of the front of the house, however, is not approved as proposed. However, I'm trying to,
I think what we were looking for was a motion to approve the proposal as presented. And then if that doesn't pass, we'll go to another approval.
Right.
well, at that point, it's not, we can't approve it as presented because of the one window on the front.
But we need to take a vote. We need to take a vote to see if a majority of the people like the proposal as presented.
Okay, all right, well, that's fine.
I guess you could
Right,
make
Paul?
the motion, Carolyn.
I'll do the next motion.
Okay, so,
I think it's just,
the motion is The motion is to approve the window proposal as presented for 615 James Street.
Can I get a second?
No, I can't second. Go ahead, Lisa, jump in.
If no one seconds it,
It does.
it fails.
Oh,
Just twice.
All right, so is this to approve the proposed?
As proposed.
As proposed.
Just need a second.
so we can vote.
This is to approve as proposed.
Yes, just need a second.
All we need is a second.
Yes.
Okay.
You will second it. Okay, and then I'll have her,
Do the roll.
Celeste call the roll.
Okay, so this is for the proposal that they're presenting as
Presented.
proposed. Hartman? Yea or nay?
Yea or nay?
Oh, I'm sorry. As presented.
Yes.
McManus?
Nay.
Solomon?
Yes.
Warner?
Nay.
Zinke?
Nay,
And Zelmer?
Yea.
Oh, it's 3-3, so it fails.
Is it 3-3? And it
It's
fails.
3-3, that fails.
Okay, didn't,
Now you can
okay, now we can
do whatever.
hear the other proposal. The other motion.
Which was,
Does that we're designing it? Is that within our jurisdiction to do that?
We can,
Again, I think that, our job really is not to design, unless we have photographic or historic documentation. I think the best documentation has been presented in testimony so far is that Ms. Lorenz has lived in the house and does not remember any window having a divided light except for the fixed unit. So, barring any photographic evidence, which I could not find, barring any information from community builders that showed this particular house, the documentation we have is the owner's testimony. So you can take that and go with wherever you want with it, but that's what our process would typically be, is based on the best documentation that we have available to us.
is your concern that we're designing, but by asking them to put in buttons?
Well, I just don't know what we can do. I mean, if the alternates are acceptable to the owner, then those could be, I don't know what the proper procedure is for that.
Well, we could,
I mean, if we can vote on something so they can get their project moving ahead, I'd be in favor of that, if we're not out of order. Otherwise, to ask them to come back and propose something that would be more agreeable to the commission.
You're free to make any motion that you want. Each commissioner has to decide if that's what the charge of the commission is. So if you're proposing to, alter what has been offered as the historic documentation of the windows because of your earlier sentiments, which is fine, you could do it, but then each commissioner's gonna have to vote and see if they agree with,
Okay.
with that approach, if that's the
Okay.
motion you're prepared to make.
All right, I would just simply challenge your summary, Michael, but with all due respect, that I did not hear the applicant state explicitly that the vinyl window was not divided light, but simply that it was original or as is, or it's always been that way or something like that. And I still find it kind of hard to believe that a builder would put in divided lights on one and not on another. It just seems inconsistent to me. But it's possible.
you can step up to,
To my recollection, those windows never had mullions. They were always
Solid
as
pane.
they are, the double
Okay.
hung window.
I accept that. All right.
okay.
Then I think we have some, based on that, then I think we have something we could propose, right?
So you don't have an issue with, well, I'm not gonna put words in your mouth. So, okay.
Sorry.
Do we, can we get another motion, Carolyn?
okay. we propose that the property at 615 James Street, be accepted as proposed with the that piece of paper that came around, is that from you?
I just made that.
The builder?
I gotta say, I challenge this situation. You guys are designing this solution.
But you designed it, you showed it to us.
Because that's where the conversation was going.
I see, okay. Well, we have to do another motion, right?
No.
Maybe Paul, maybe I shouldn't
what-
do the motion.
I mean, we don't have to.
We don't have to, but that, then it would not
were
be passing. It wouldn't, we wouldn't, you'd have to come back and present something. We would tell you that what we believe would pass would be to add buttons to the picture, the proposal that you have, so that it more reflected what was there originally.
Has anyone changed their mind? Has anyone, on the first proposal, has any commissioner changed their mind? That they can pass this thing as,
As presented?
As
No,
presented.
it failed as presented.
Yeah.
then this would be, pardon me?
Yeah, we are trying to get you through
Okay, and
today.
I appreciate that, I really do.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to get, because we could say to you that the proposal did not pass, and this is what we think will pass, and have you come back in November.
Okay,
Or we can just say that we are going to put together, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but we can put together a motion that we approve the proposal with the addition of the buttons,
of these grills.
the simulated divided
As
lights,
I
yeah.
drew,
yeah,
I drew them, I just came up with that.
Yeah, yeah.
That
So,
gets you your
so,
look,
yeah, that achieves the look that we're looking for.
okay?
So that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to design your,
I mean, do I have a choice?
you do have a choice. You
Yeah.
can,
Well,
you don't,
if I want the project before winter, so that I have to.
There's another option. We could do a motion to accept this project as presented with the exception of the west window. And then you could get started on all the other windows, and then you'd have to come back in November and tell us if,
I think we'll still be in the same position.
Same boat.
well, we
I-
might.
I think to clarify for everybody, I think what you're all struggling, you're on the precipice of, is that there is a solution here that meets your original goal of having the casement windows operating. It's a matter of whether it's buttons or not. I don't think anybody is, I mean, the commission would be in their purview because the historic documentation, that was a fixed picture window, and the commission could make a motion that will only accept if you put another 16 light fixed picture window in that place. I think they're trying to find a compromise here. So I think you're close enough to a compromise. I think that someone needs to advance this forward and see if it can pass so that they can move on with their project.
Yeah, I move that we accept the window replacement as proposed, with the exception that the front facade major window be modified to have three pieces: a fixed divided light center of 8 panes, and sided by 2 casement windows or double hung, but with lights to match in spacing and proportion.
I'll second it.
do you want to put in double hung? I mean, that,
I think the owner's preferred casement, but I'd put it,
your motion
I
is your
put
motion.
it in there that it
Yeah.
was casement or double hung, owner's option.
Okay,
Think you second? Okay,
I second
Zinke
it.
second.
modified. Okay. Hartman?
Yay.
I'm sorry, nay?
Yes.
That's a yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe that's- McManus,
Aye.
Solomon? Warner?
Yes.
Okay, Zinke,
Yes,
and Selmer.
Hey, aye.
That passes.
Thank you.
there we go.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for
Thank you. Okay, our next review of building permits is 128 North Third Street.
Thank you, Commissioner Zelmer. The request before you tonight is for a property at 128 North Third Street, which is classified as a contributing property within the Geneva Historic District, and is classified also as a contributing property in the North Geneva Historic District listed in the National Register of Historic Places. I want to point out a correction that in the staff report, was an error saying it's in the Central Geneva Historic District. It is in the North Geneva Historic District. This house is a important building that was built between 1844 and 1848, most likely between 1846 and 1847. It's built in the Greek Revival style as a gable front home, and is reported to be the first balloon frame house built in Geneva by John Rudolph Schmolt, who was an early Geneva carpenter and joiner, or cabinet maker, as they were, what a joiner was, who built many Geneva houses in its first decade of existence. For recollection, Schmolt built the house at 201 North 3rd Street that was just underwent a major renovation, had the foundation rebuilt under it. That's kitty corner from this house. So this is in the neighborhood of John Schmolt residences. The house is significant architecturally for its Greek Revival style and being associated with an early carpenter, but also it's been reported that Mr. Schmolt's first wife, Augusta, taught school in the front room of this house before schools were established in Geneva. We know the house was here by 1848 because Mr. Schmolt was assessed $60 for a frame dwelling on this property for taxes. The house has been owned by other prominent families in the city of Geneva. Sorry, I forgot to go. In the city of Geneva, including the Eddowes family, who had relationships both with the Unitarian Church and also as running one of the very early drugstores that stood at 2nd and State Street. It's also associated with the Gillingham family, who were longtime merchants in Geneva as well, who joined with Mr. Long, E.H. Long, and developed Long and Gillingham stores, and then Gillingham bought out the business and ran as a grocery store on the east side of Geneva. The 173-year-old house is a rather unassuming house. Oops, I want to go back here. This is the existing conditions on the left before the work began, and as I point out in the report, it was begun without a permit, with the idea that the owners believed because the roof was unsafe and the deck of the porch was unsafe, that they were within their the ability to remove an unsafe condition from the house. It was tagged by code enforcement, and so the work has stopped in the repair and reconstruction of the porch. So here's a couple of the existing conditions. You can see that the roof had sagged. Also, it's pulling apart from the house here. Also, right here, there's an actual is a separation between the porch and the roof, or I mean the porch roof and the house. Also, the floor deck is rotted. There is rot and carpenter ants infestation in the porch deck and the posts themselves. You can also see when the porch was built, when this particular porch was built, that it was supported on just loose laid concrete block right here, and you can see the nature of the deterioration of the floor framing of the porch deck itself. So it was in severely deteriorated condition. The porch roof itself had started to collapse and bow. But what is critically important about this house is that with all the porches it's had, the original architectural feature of the main entryway has always been preserved underneath the porch roof. So the porch roof was built over the original entablature of the front frontispiece. The house is well documented as having been here early. It appears in the 1869 bird's eye view of Geneva. There's a drawing of what the house looked like before any porch was put on it. But as I pointed out in the staff report, there has been a porch on this house for the majority of its existence. The building is 173 years old, and as far as I can look at records, it's had a porch of some sort on it for 140 of those years. If you look at the earliest map we have from 1891, you can see it's a very small stoop, and it's not indicated as having any kind of a roof covering. So I believe that was just an open-air deck in 1891. But by 1896, the Sanborn map shows that it does have a single slope roof with a shingle roof covering on it. So as early as within the first 50 years of its construction, a porch had been added to this house. Again, just looking at the various Sanborn maps and summarizing them, the porch has actually changed configuration. It's gotten smaller, it's gotten larger, it's gotten shallower, it's gotten deeper over time. Sanborn maps were fairly accurate. So we don't believe this is not the second, it's probably not the third, it may be the fourth or fifth porch that exists on the building at this time. You'll also note that in between 1920 and 1929, the house did not have a porch at all indicated on Sanborn Fire Insurance map. So the current porch that is on the property dates to probably 1929, 1930. It was there by the 1930 and 1945 Sanborn Fire Insurance maps in the current configuration. As I said, the current porch is deeper than any of the previous porches, but it has been there for almost 90 years. So the owners are proposing to rebuild the porch, and they have these axonometric drawings to kind of indicate the general direction they're trying to go, and I've summarized what their intent is in the construction of the project. So they would like to keep the dimension the same depth. However, they would like to increase the porch to come between the center two windows of the home. The porch will be supported on concrete piers down to frost so that the porch will be stable from now on. They are going to use traditional 1x3 tongue and groove wood porch decking, so solid flooring. Looks like I repeated the piers twice. The columns will be designed to match closely to the existing pilasters, including a capital detail. However, the capitals will probably be created out of moldings that are stock moldings to be close in character, but not an exact replication. So there's a differentiation between what is 2020 versus what was done in 1846. There's not going to be a railing or a balustrade around the porch. There is none required because it's not high enough above grade to require a railing. So the railing that's depicted in this third contractor's view is not accurate. There will not be a railing on it. It will be like the two to the left. From the information I have, I believe it's a wood porch ceiling is being proposed to be put back just like was there before. And it's an asphalt shingle roof. And the only question I have from looking at the drawings was it appears that it's being proposed to have a small hip on the north end, but maybe that's just the architect, maybe it's just the drawing, if it's just going to be a simple shed roof, so you can maybe clarify, the applicants can maybe clarify the exact shape of that roof. I think that might be a drawing issue, not what's being proposed. Well, let me finish my presentation.
Mimic the,
Let me finish my presentation, then I'll...
the one across the street.
So, so anyway, I provided the findings, the historic significance summary for you, and there's a copy on the lectern for them. And then there is also the finding of fact that relates back to the Secretary of Interior standards. So with that, that's the general overview. I'd like to turn it over to Anton and Maria Malvani. They are the owners, and I will show them how to operate things. And you can further elaborate on the details of the project. But this will take you back to any image you want, and it will take you forward. Okay. So it's that simple. Okay. Sure. Floor is yours.
If you could state your name and address.
Anton Malavani.
Maria Malavani.
You're at the house, right?
Yes.
That's your residence?
Yes.
Okay,
Welcome.
great, thank you.
Thank you. We're just trying to put something back that's not gonna fall down. That's within, the character of the house.
Okay,
And we're basically trying to model it after the sister house that you approved across the street with the roof line. So
okay,
it is a little bit like how that house is shaped. To draw the water away from just coming all down but to three sides. That's the only difference on the porch roof that you probably couldn't pick up on the design.
And also, the columns will be slightly different. They'll
Yeah.
be matching the columns of the front entrance of the
Trying to
home,
keep it in the same appeal.
which I think are beautiful. There's 4 of them, plasters, and we would like to
Mimic them.
mimic those with the support columns for the porch.
the 2 larger ones, the 2 pilasters?
Well,
Well, they're all the same,
They're all the same, it's just
basically.
whatever will support the weight of the roof.
Oh, okay,
They have to be structured,
Yeah.
structurally sound.
so you're gonna try to
Keep
match
the same,
the
what do you
same,
call it,
the
the
same
top-
feel as what was,
the feel.
same feel
Absolutely,
as the what?
Oh, exactly.
Okay.
absolutely, yes.
We're not doing anything extravagant like,
The
That's not a-
simplicity of the porch
it's a farmhouse.
is more in line with the home itself, and it also is more in line with our budget. So we kind of lucked out.
But there's no, pardon me, other than the returns, there's no style. It's a balloon frame house, like you saw in Witness when they put the barn up. Straight up, straight over, straight across. That's it.
Well, it's a Greek revival.
The
Well-
front entrance
Yeah,
of the
the
home
front,
does
Well,
have
the molding,
all of
yes.
the character, I feel.
To me, it's a balloon frame house that went
Okay,
up. Yeah, as a house.
Okay,
But your little characters you're referring to is the molding on the front and the returns on the front.
yes, exactly.
We're not touching those.
How deep will the porch be?
8 feet.
I can't hear you.
8,
8 feet? Okay, thank you.
that's what it is.
It's what's
Same
existing
as
right
what's
now.
there right now. Yeah.
Do you have any plans for the door itself,
Nope.
the trim around it? revealing
Not
it,
at this
modifying-
time.
No, we're not doing anything with that.
And you're gonna have the porch ceiling come into the existing so that you can see the entabulate, all the moldings that were existing at the front door there?
Yes, it's got to go right above it.
Okay,
The only thing that we want to remove from the existing porch is when the porch comes back, if you can go back to the porch.
Here, you do it.
I'm not tech savvy.
Oh.
Where he shows the window, it goes right into the window.
yeah, and you just wanna get away from that
Yeah,
detail?
that's stupid. As well as a lot of the stuff that they built it with.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it just, nobody would put a return into a window. So we're moving it out the other side of the window so you can properly secure it to the house.
Okay.
Chairman Zelmer, one
Yes.
clarification that, as I've heard them present, I didn't hear the other day when I met with them, and I just think the commission needs it clarified. When they say, I'm gonna go back to the axonometric, because I've looked at, they've got 2 other axonometrics that they've furnished, but they are showing the same view. What I can't tell from what is being described tonight, and they're saying they're gonna have it like the porch across at 201 North Third, is there's no view from this side,
Which,
from the left side that's been presented.
oh,
So
I see.
So my question is, if this is going to be a hipped return on this side, and they want to do a hipped return on this side,
yes,
it's going to be critical to look back at this. If they do a hipped return, they will be cutting into,
no, we're not gonna cut into that.
then it's going to have to be a shed roof on this side and a hip on that side, as the axonometric show. That's why I wasn't sure if you guys,
Yeah. We're not cutting into any of the original,
so it will be
So maybe
a
that's just
straight gable
Yeah.
on this end, and it'll only be a hip on this end.
yes,
That is accurate.
yes.
Okay.
Have you considered at all making the porch go all the way across the building instead of stopping
We
between
thought
the
that
two
would have been
windows?
too much of a,
We thought
Issue.
that the city wouldn't approve of that, number
So we didn't
one.
even think
Number
of it.
two, it would be more costly for us.
but we didn't think the city would approve it, so we didn't even consider it.
In my just very brief survey of Greek revivals, I think technically speaking, and please, Michael, stop me or correct me here, I see porches that are going to either cover the door or go all the way across. So I was just going to ask, and I think you answered it in your testimony as to why you're just moving it out over the second window. If it was just a farmhouse, you could do any dimension practically, I think. But also the Sanborn shows that if they are accurate, Michael, you got 1/3, 2/3, and half width porches there anyway, as far as what was existing, so I can't really insist on anything. But I think technically speaking, a Greek revival, they loved symmetry, and they would either do all or just protect the entrance.
That is true. However, again, two things to consider. One is they have a zoning issue. They can only have so much lot coverage, and they are pretty close to lot coverage with this proposal that's allowed by zoning. The second thing is that this house, as a Greek revival, in its incarnation as a Greek revival, never had a porch, probably had an open stoop. And so what we have is a series of other people who've added porches onto over the years. The porch was never a Greek revival porch. It was a porch put on by subsequent people in various styles that we don't know exactly what it looked like. So if this was a pure Greek revival, you'd be exactly right, Commissioner Warner. But this has been something that's been put on by other people over time as a shelter to the front door without really a nod to the Greek revival style. That makes sense to everybody.
I would only like to see, because I'm having trouble imagining what the shape of the roof would look like. Are we saying that the angles would be different
No,
Yes.
on the left and right?
Shed on one side and the hip on the other
yeah,
side.
that's what it shows.
Okay.
Yeah, so
See
they
the
would be
left-
different on one side versus the other side.
Unless we had both.
Unless they were
Same.
both like that, but, Michael, does it follow that it can't go there? They can't both be the same?
I don't normally do sketches this fast, but this is what I understand it's going to look like.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
preserve the entablature above the door. Now, are you envisioning that it was going to be pitched on this side as well?
I was.
Okay, so.
I didn't realize until just now, when you explained it,
What?
that we need the shed side, is that what you called it?
Right.
On one side. And I was gonna
The hip side.
discuss it tonight with my husband, do a shed on the other side too.
Yeah, you could do that. That would be the cleanest look.
Because
Yes.
it would
That
bother,
would look better,
me to
I
have two different,
Yeah, that would look
Yeah.
better.
I like,
So you want it to look like that.
Yes,
yes.
that's what she's saying.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
I'm visually
yes.
challenged.
Get rid of the
Mike.
hip, I
Pass it
suppose,
around.
Yeah.
and have it
Figure it
straight,
out.
straight.
That's not my best illustration for people, so.
You want to show both sides.
I know what you're saying. I
Cut
wanna
into
see
the
it.
entrance part of the house.
Yes. Sim-
You don't want to do that.
It's kind of goofy.
Symmetry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's,
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine, that's fine.
Yeah, I would disfavor that,
You would disfavor what?
as sketched by M. Lambert, staff.
So you don't like Michael's sketch?
I do not.
Okay.
With the angle, but you are okay with it as both the
I
shed
am.
ends?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
yes.
Okay. So the only
So,
different,
Mike, just off of visual, inspection, you're saying that you cannot do a hip on the left side of the door because it would, the left side of the roof because it would come into the doorway?
It would destroy the historic fabric, which one of our tenants is not to destroy work into the new work place.
Okay.
Okay.
And to dispose by the way, every person who's built a porch there obviously respect that they're built over that unarchitectural detail.
Yeah, exactly.
Framed over it.
Yeah, there's no intent to change.
I guess that's why I want to make sure that I just realized what.
No,
Okay.
So the existing entry is staying intact. We're building a porch, which isn't part of the Greek revival, but it kind of doesn't matter because there's been porches there, for most of this home's existence, in variety of different shapes and sizes. And it looks a lot like what we're replacing too.
Yes. Just, we're extending it to between the two windows.
Right.
To avoid the detail against the window there,
Yes.
basically.
Yes.
I
And
did
give you
do
a
a
little,
drive-by, by the way. I drove by your house over the weekend to check it out, and yeah, that's something that needs to be replaced.
You should see it. Yeah.
I like the fact that you're using natural materials going back, the wood decking and that sort of
No,
thing.
it's all natural.
That's nice that it's. John, do you have any issues?
No muttons.
Oh, thank you.
What, we love muttons, right?
George, anything, Dad? Anyone else?
I don't
David?
feel strongly that it has to be symmetrical due to the multiple configurations over the years, so it's just under advisement. It's
Yeah,
what's functional and is not going to disrupt the historicity of the front entrance.
okay. Unless anyone's, or do you want to put together a motion, or do you have something to say, Carolyn?
Well, I was going to say that I wish the porch was smaller. When my husband and I drove by this afternoon, the house to the south of you has a smaller porch. And 2 blocks away, the White House where they've been working on that house for, on the corner, they've been working on that house for 3 years. What I love about that one is that the roof over the front door doesn't have any sides. Paul, what kind of a roof, what kind of a porch roof is that called? It's just like an awning, a wooden awning over the front door? Is that what it would be called, an awning?
Yeah, does it even have posts on it? I mean.
No, it has no posts.
So it's just bracketed out.
A bracketed, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I wish you were putting on. But this is not my house, and this is not your proposal.
Are you referring to the sister home, Kitty Corner?
No, she's
No,
talking
no.
about the house on, is it
The
Ford?
next block north, on
Is
the
that
corner.
Ford and Third?
The northeast corner of Ford and
Yeah,
Third.
the White House that we talked about for years.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well,
so
this,
that's
this
just my-
roof is, mimics the roof Kitty Corner
Yes, it does.
that was built by the same builder.
Right, it does.
We just liked the simplicity of it.
Right,
It's
that was Sean
functional, it
Gallagher.
will protect the front of the home.
Right, it
I mean,
will.
we even discussed not even having a porch, going back to the original, just the front entrance. That would really showcase those palisters.
I
But
would
then
like
we
that
were
better.
worried about the elements, exposure to the
Yes,
elements. The
you're right.
porch will serve as a, a protective
Mm-hmm.
covering for those columns.
Yes,
And also it has, gives us a place to sit at night
Yes.
and,
exactly,
it's really, it's been nice.
yes. And I agree with everything you said. I'm just more of a purist.
Chairman Zelmer, just to clarify for the record, because it's been said twice and I don't want it to get in the record for eternity, the house Kitty Corner, that porch also was like this porch in that it didn't have a porch, it had a porch, it didn't have a porch, it had a porch. And so that is actually a 1920s porch. We know that was built there sometime before 1923. So again, it doesn't diminish what they were saying, they want a porch like this Kitty Corner, but that house has the same kind of history, that it's had a variety of porches on it over
It's a
time.
sister house.
Yeah, so again, I just wanted to clarify that for the record, that is not an original porch on
Agreed.
201, North Third.
Yeah, I concur with Carolyn, Chairman, excuse me, Commissioner Zinke, that I would prefer it being smaller, just being a purist, but I have no objection to what you have proposed.
Do you mean the porch itself being smaller?
Yeah, just simply to protect the entry.
Oh, I see. I see. We had it smaller already, and we barely could fit our 2 chairs on the front.
Yeah.
And then the mail person would have to kind of maneuver around the chairs to get to the mailbox. So, you know, it's not that big of a deal, but
But if
we
you
thought
want-
we would try to get a little bit
Right.
more space for just, if our daughter wants to sit out with us, or, you know, just make it a little bit more functional.
Yeah,
That's all.
exactly.
Very good. Are we, it seems like we're zeroing in on a consensus. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the proposal at 128 North 3rd Street for a new front porch as presented
Well, I think the only,
with a shed roof on both sides.
that sounds good. Okay.
Second by Solomon, okay. Okay. Hartman,
Yay?
McManus,
Yay.
Solomon, Warner,
Yay.
Zinke,
Yay.
Zelmer,
Yes,
passes.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Coming in.
Have fun. I will love watching what you're doing.
Yes.
A lot of work trying to restore
I
that.
just might. But no, I'll wait till the porch is done and I'll sit in the 3rd chair.
Oh, God, yeah.
Because it had pill damage.
How nice.
Oof.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been all updated inside.
Well, that's good.
It's a beautiful house.
It is.
It is.
Thank you.
We're lucky to have you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Okay, next on our agenda is the Secretary's report. Michael?
I just have 2 very quick things to report. Progress is continuing and getting closer to completion with the intensive local survey I've been working on. We are now down to editing forms, and we're hoping to bring the intensive level survey to the commission sometime this winter. Second thing is just, you don't get a billion report, we are on the same track as we were last year at this time, basically. So, we've looked at approximately 78 permits this fiscal year so far, so May 1st, which is on track where we've been for the last couple of years. So I expect that we will, probably close to 7 with permits received,
Very good.
questions?
Nope.
In the minutes, I noticed that you were asked, Michael, to give an update on the Mill Race Inn situation last month. Can you remember what you said? Because I didn't get to hear it.
Yes, again, as I told the commission that it's not a preservation issue at this point. It's in the plan department, plan development. And I believe that they are coming forward with some initial requests at the end of this month. So do watch the agendas. Again, it's not my project, so if you have specific questions, feel free to contact David DeGroot.
Okay.
And he's managing that project. We also have a new planner on staff. That position was unfilled for about 4.5 months. And we do have a new planner on staff, Chayton True, and he's getting up to speed, but the Mill Race Inn project is being managed by David DeGroot at this point.
I see. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other comments from the new business from the commission? No? Okay, our public has left. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good, we're adjourned.
Okay, we're done.